There comes a day, not marked on any calendar, not predicted by any prophet, when the last human heart beats for the final time. No war, no explosion, no dramatic ending, just a quiet moment when our story fades into silence. The cities we built stand tall, frozen in their final act. Billboards still shine, elevators wait for passengers who will never come. A breeze moves through the empty streets, carrying the scent of rain, dust, and memory. And for the first time in 200,000 years, Earth belongs to no one. We were here for only a moment in planetary time, a brief bright spark that rose and vanished. For millions of years before us, the planet spun in endless rhythm, untouched by thought, free from ambition. Then came us, fragile creatures with grand dreams. We painted the skies with smoke, lit up the nights, split atoms, touched the stars, and believed that we were eternal. But eternity was never ours to keep. The same earth that once gave us life will now outlast our legacy. Without us, the heartbeat of industry stops, the whisper of machines fades, and the true sound of the planet returns, the song of wind, of rain, of ocean and forest. Imagine the moment after the last human breath, the final echo of footsteps fading down an empty hallway. The lights flicker for a few more hours, perhaps a day, until power plants shut down with no hands to feed them fuel. Airplanes once, tracing white scars across the sky, drift and crash into forgotten oceans. Satellites orbit above, transmitting signals no one will ever receive. And below, the world waits. Nature does not mourn us. It remembers how to heal. The seeds that fell into cracks of pavement begin to sprout, pushing through the ruins of concrete and glass. Grass reclaims the roads, vines climb the steel towers, and trees grow through shattered windows of skyscrapers. The planet breathes again. For so long, we thought we ruled this world. We mapped it, mined it, burned it, built upon it. We measured time in centuries, but Earth counts in ages. Long after our names are dust, the rivers will still carve valleys, the oceans will still rise and fall, and the stars will still burn with indifference. In our absence, the world will not end. It will continue, reborn. Civilization will become archaeology, and archaeology will become myth. The memories of humanity, our cities, our art, our technology, will erode piece by piece until only whispers remain. Perhaps one day, millions of years from now, a new species will walk this earth and find the bones of our monuments buried beneath the soil. They will wonder who we were, what dreams we chased, and why we disappeared. And somewhere in that distant future, the earth will smile, for it has seen this cycle before. This is not a story of destruction. It is a story of transformation, a story of what remains when the noise fades, when the fires die, and when the world reclaims what was always hers. This is the story of the last human on earth, and the world that continues without us. Welcome to the Wonder Lab. Welcome to a future without us. The end of humankind does not arrive with thunder or flame, but with stillness, a stillness so complete that even the wind seems to hesitate, unsure of what to do with the silence left behind. In the first few minutes after the last heartbeat, the world holds its breath. Cities stand illuminated, unaware that no one is watching. Trains idle at their stations, their doors open to passengers who will never return. Elevators wait on empty floors. Streetlights flicker to no rhythm but their own. For a brief moment, the illusion of life continues. Electric grids hum, Engines turn, machines obey their final commands, unaware that they are now alone. But within hours, the systems we built begin to unravel. Power plants run out of fuel. Reactors shut down without maintenance. The global web of technology, satellites, networks, communication towers, collapses into quiet. The pulse of civilization fades, replaced by the heartbeat of the earth. A world once defined by noise becomes a planet of whispers. Without humans to tend them, cities begin to change almost immediately. Temperature control systems fail, subways flood as pumps stop working. Skyscrapers grow dark as batteries drain and emergency lights fade. Across the continents, the power grid, that delicate web connecting billions, falls into permanent night. In homes, televisions display their last frozen image before screens go black. Food left in refrigerators begins to rot, filling kitchens with the scent of decay. In hospitals, machines stop beeping. Their rhythm of life support ends in an instant. There is no panic, no screams, only silence. Animals sense it first. Dogs bark into the empty air, confused by the absence of their masters. Cats roam freely through abandoned streets. Cows wander from open farms into the fields. Birds perch on telephone wires, waiting for the voices that never return. Within days, the skies grow quieter. Airplanes that were once streaking across the stratosphere have all fallen. No more contrails cut through the blue. The air becomes clearer, cleaner, softer, a purity not felt in centuries. In the great cities, New York, Tokyo, Karachi, Berlin, London, time slows. Windows reflect the light of a new dawn that belongs to no one. The hum of engines, the chatter of humans, the rhythm of life. All gone. Only the wind remains whispering through the empty streets, carrying with it the scent of rain, rust, and memory. As the days pass, nature hesitates at the edges of our creation, then takes its first cautious step forward. Weeds grow through the cracks of sidewalks, roots begin to split the asphalt, rats and foxes emerge from the shadows, claiming the streets as their own. Pigeons build nests in the skeletons of cars, and in the silence, the earth remembers how to breathe. The oceans rise and fall without ships to cut their waves. The mountains stand untouched, ancient and patient, and the forests, once cut and burned, begin to whisper again. Seeds carried by the wind drift into empty cities. Raindrops find their way through open roofs, feeding small green rebellions that sprout in forgotten corners. The silence deepens. Days turn into weeks. The smell of metal, oil, and concrete begins to fade, replaced by the scent of wet earth and wildflowers. The sound of humanity's heartbeat is gone, replaced by the gentle pulse of a living world. And in that silence, something extraordinary begins. The slow, graceful return of balance. For millions of years before us, the earth existed in perfect harmony. We disrupted that rhythm, shaped it, bent it, forced it to follow our will. But now, with no one left to command or consume, the planet is free to heal. The silence that began as grief transforms into rebirth. It is the first chapter of a world, learning to live again, a world that no longer remembers our voices, but still carries the echo of our existence in the wind. A few weeks have passed since humanity vanished. The earth no longer hears the sound of engines or the endless murmur of voices. The cities that once glowed like constellations from space now sleep under a blanket of darkness. From above, the planet looks peaceful, calm, almost healed. But down below, a slow, quiet collapse begins. Without maintenance, our monuments of progress begin to betray us. Steel rusts, glass fractures under the changing heat of the sun, bridges that once carried millions begin to twist and buckle. The skeletons of skyscrapers groan as wind howls through their hollow hearts. Nature does not destroy, it reclaims. Raindrops slip through cracks in concrete, feeding small patches of green that grow between the ruins. Tiny seeds, once trapped in the dust, awaken. A single blade of grass pierces the road where 1,000 cars once passed. And from that moment on, the fall of cities becomes unstoppable. In a month, vines crawl up the walls of towers once filled with life. Trees root themselves in the remains of shopping malls. Moss creeps across marble floors and broken glass. The air smells of soil and stone instead of smoke and steel. By the first year, the weather begins to show its strength. Without human control, fires burn unchecked, sweeping through empty suburbs. Floods drown underground tunnels and train lines. The great cities begin to fracture under the pressure of nature's return. New York's subway becomes an underground river. London's Thames overflows, reclaiming its ancient path. In Venice, the rising sea enters every home, turning the city of canals into a ghostly oceanic graveyard. Even the air changes. Without factories, cars, or pollution, the skies clear. Clouds move freely, rain falls clean, and the stars, but unseen for generations, shine once more above the silent towers. The Milky Way glows with ancient light, untouched by the haze of civilization. Inside the buildings, time eats away at everything we once cherished. Paper decays, photographs fade, plastic endures, mocking the fragility of everything else. The cities become time capsules, not of glory, but of forgetting. 10 years pass. The world has changed beyond recognition. Roots and vines crush walls. The forests push their way through glass and stone. Highways disappear beneath carpets of green. Animals wander where humans once ruled. Wolves return to Europe's forests. Bears roam the suburbs of America. Elephants move through empty African villages. The balance we once broke begins to restore itself. And yet, amid this silent takeover, the cities still stand like ancient ruins of a vanished civilization. Their towers, half collapsed, shimmer in the morning fog, echoes of an empire that believed it would last forever. Rain falls through open roofs, pooling in the rooms where humans once lived. Birds nest inside the hollow remains of offices. The glass and metal that once symbolized power now lie surrendered to the simplest forces of life: wind, water, and time. From a distance, Earth looks alive again. But beneath this rebirth lies the haunting truth. Everything we built, everything we thought eternal, was only temporary. The cities fall, but the planet endures. And in their fall they leave behind a quiet message, written not in words, but in silence, that no matter how high we rise, nature will always remember the way back. 100 years have passed since the last human vanished. The world we once ruled has become unrecognizable. Where steel and concrete once stood, forests now rise. Where traffic once raged, rivers flow freely. The scars of humanity are fading, slowly, patiently, beneath a green tide of rebirth. The earth, once suffocating under our ambition, begins to breathe again. The air is crisp, the skies are deep and endless, and the rhythm of the planet has returned to its ancient pace. No ticking clocks, no glowing screens, only the heartbeat of wind, water, and life. In the ruins of our greatest cities, life flourishes in unexpected ways. Roots coil through the remains of skyscrapers, cracking their foundations like ancient trees reclaiming their throne. Ferns spill across stairways that once led to boardrooms. Wildflowers bloom where machines once screamed. And from every window, vines dangle like curtains, softening the cold geometry of man-made design. Across the continents, new ecosystems emerge. In North America, bison roam freely through the skeletons of cities. Wolves howl across what was once the highway from Chicago to New York. Deer graze in the courtyards of silent universities. In Europe, the forests stretch from the Alps to the North Sea, weaving through the remains of towns and cathedrals. In Asia, jungles reclaim their ancient strength, wrapping their green arms around temples, factories, and forgotten villages alike. The world is no longer divided by borders or languages. There are no nations, no maps, no wars, only balance. The great noise of civilization has vanished, leaving behind a deep and endless calm. It is as if the earth herself is sighing in relief after a long, troubled dream. In Africa, the savannas expand once more. Lions rest on the steps of old government, buildings, their roars echoing through empty capitals. Elephants wander through the ruins of cities, tearing down fences that no longer matter. The air smells of rain and dust and wild grass, not of smoke or fuel or industry. In the oceans, coral reefs bloom again in colors unseen for centuries. Whales return to ancient routes once blocked by ships. The songs of the sea creatures travel farther than ever, crossing the great blue silence without interference. The plastic islands, those floating monuments of human neglect, slowly sink and are swallowed by time. Above it all, the skies are alive once more. Birds migrate freely, filling the air with 1,000 wings. The ozone layer, once scarred by our pollution, heals itself. The auroras shimmer brighter over the poles, painting the heavens with green and violet ribbons of light. This is nature's quiet revolution, not violent, not vengeful, but inevitable. It is a reminder that life does not need permission to return. Even in the smallest crack of concrete, even in the shadow of what we left behind, something always grows. The forests spread across what were once farmlands. Without humans to plow or harvest, nature reclaims her rhythm. Rain nourishes forgotten seeds, the soil heals. The insects return, bees, butterflies, ants, rebuilding the smallest foundations of life's vast design. And in time, the earth becomes wild once more. If one were to walk these lands now, though there is no one left to do so, they would find beauty in every ruin. Temples swallowed by vines, cars buried beneath moss, skylines turned into jungles. Every structure once built to defy nature now serves as a home for it. 1,000 years after us, our presence is almost gone. Only the faintest traces remain, fragments of glass, bones of steel, whispers of what once was. The cities are forests now. The deserts bloom again, and the planet, in her endless patience, begins to forget the name of the species that tried to own her. This is not revenge. This is restoration. Nature's return is not a punishment for our existence, but a continuation of life's unbroken song, a melody that began long before us and will play long after we are gone. 1,000 years have passed since the last human walked the earth. The world has healed, but the ghosts of our existence remain buried beneath the soil and the sea. What was once the pinnacle of our achievement now lies in quiet decay, dissolving into memory. The cities, once symbols of power, are no longer visible from space. Forests have swallowed their outlines. Rivers have carved new paths through their foundations. Where skyscrapers once pierced the clouds, there now stand colossal trees, ancient giants whose roots wind through forgotten towers of glass and steel. The wind moves through what remains, carrying fragments of us, dust, rust, and silence. Time is patient. It erases not with violence, but with persistence. Metal crumbles, molecule by molecule. Concrete turns to dust. Glass melts into sand, returning to the form it once was. Plastic, our most enduring creation, drifts in the oceans, breaking into invisible pieces that become part of the food chain. Even our waste becomes life again. In the depths of old museums, relics of human history, paintings, sculptures, books, are reduced to nothing. Canvas decays, stone weathers, paper dissolves into pulp. The words we once thought immortal fade back into the silence from which they came. Every story, every song, every declaration of greatness vanishes, one molecule at a time. The monuments we built to defy time begin to surrender. The pyramids, though ancient, start to erode beneath shifting sands. The Great Wall of China crumbles into the hills it once divided. Mount Rushmore's faces, carved into living stone, slowly lose their definition, the features of presidents blurred by rain and frost. Our great wonders, once proof of our brilliance, now return to dust. Underwater, the ruins of our coastal cities lie preserved like fossils. New coral reefs grow upon their bones. Fish swim through the skeletons of high-rise buildings, weaving between what were once office windows. Statues tilt under the weight of the coral, their shapes softened by the sea. The ocean, relentless and patient, reclaims everything we left near its edge. Even the heavens forget us. Our satellites, once circling Earth in endless precision, lose their orbits and burn up in the atmosphere one by one, streaks of light in the night sky that no one will ever see. The signals we sent into the void, radio waves, television broadcasts, data, continue to travel outward, weakening, scattering among the stars until they are indistinguishable from cosmic background noise. Our voice fades into the static of the universe, and yet, for all that we have lost, traces remain. Buried deep beneath the Earth's surface lie our most indestructible creations, the bones of our civilization, nuclear waste sealed in concrete, microchips encased in stone, and strange alloys that nature cannot yet dissolve. These become our fossils, clues left for a future that may never come. Perhaps millions of years from now, another intelligent life form will rise. They will dig through the layers of earth and find these fragments, a shard of plastic, a metal tooth from a machine, a fossilized city wall, and they will wonder who we were. Were we gods? Were we fools? Or just a species that burned too brightly, too fast? Our legacy, once shouted across the planet, becomes a whisper carried by wind and water. We believed we were building forever, monuments to endure time itself. But forever is not made of stone or steel. Forever belongs to change. And in the endless rhythm of nature, even our greatest works are temporary. The fading legacy of humankind is not a tragedy. It is a return, a cycle. For every monument that falls, a tree grows. For every structure that collapses, the soil forms new life. We do not vanish, we transform. Our atoms, once arranged into machines and cities, dissolve and return to the earth that birthed them. In the quiet of this new world, we still exist, not as builders or conquerors, but as part of the great and eternal memory of nature. And in that silence, perhaps, we are finally at peace. 10,000 years have passed since the last echo of humankind faded. The world has changed beyond recognition. The age of cities and machines is long gone, and in its place has risen a planet reborn, wild, radiant, alive. Where concrete once ruled, forests now stretch unbroken from horizon to horizon. Mountains, once carved in mind, stand unscarred beneath endless skies. The rivers that humans dammed now run free, carving new paths through the softened earth. Everywhere, life has returned in forms ancient and new, a tapestry woven again by time and evolution. The air is thick with the hum of insects and the songs of birds unknown to history. In the warmth of equatorial jungles, new species emerge, creatures shaped not by human design, but by nature's patient hand. Their colors are vivid, their instincts precise, their balance perfect. The predators and prey dance once more in harmony, guided by laws older than memory. Across the continents, evolution writes a new story. In Africa, the descendants of elephants grow taller, their tusks smaller, adapted for dense forests instead of open plains. In the ruins of Eurasia, great cats have evolved thicker fur and darker coats, blending into the shadows of ancient cities turned forests. In the Americas, vast herds of grazing beasts thunder across fields that were once industrial farmland. Their hooves beat like a heartbeat the planet had forgotten. Oceans flourish beyond imagination. Without plastic, oil, or nets, the waters gleam in hues of sapphire and jade. Gigantic schools of fish shimmer beneath the waves, moving as one vast organism. Whales, freed from the noise of ships and sonar, communicate across entire oceans once again, their songs echoing in the deep like prayers. Coral reefs, once ghostly white, are now living cities of color, breathing, expanding, glowing in the filtered sunlight. Above the world the atmosphere has grown clean and clear. Storms still rage, but they bring renewal instead of destruction. Lightning splits the sky, igniting wildfires that feed new cycles of growth. The seasons move in perfect rhythm, and for the first time in ages, the planet's pulse is steady. There are no more borders here, no nations, no empires, no machines. The balance of predator and prey, of life and death, has returned. The earth is whole again, and yet the memory of humankind lingers, not in monuments or machines, but in the bones of the world itself. Our influence can still be traced in the layers of rock, in the isotopes buried deep beneath the soil. Future species may one day uncover these traces and wonder about the ones who came before. The creatures who rose, dreamed, built, and vanished. Perhaps they will find the remains of a bridge beneath a riverbed, or a fragment of glass trapped in a glacier. Perhaps they will sense that another intelligence once walked this earth, not as a myth, but as a moment. A brief chapter in the planet's endless story. The New World thrives, not in spite of us, but because of what followed our silence. Our departure allowed life to breathe again, to evolve, to remember its original rhythm. The forests sing with the same wind that once carried our voices. The waves crash against shores shaped by our forgotten cities. We are gone, yet somehow still present, woven into the fabric of every leaf, every tide, every breath of air. In this new era, the earth does not mourn. It simply is, alive, endless, at peace. This is the new world, not one built by humankind, but one restored by time. A world where every creature, every tree, every cloud is free again. The world that was always waiting beneath our noise. The world that never needed us to survive. Millions of years have passed since the last human footprint faded from the dust. The world has healed completely. The forests are eternal now, vast green ocean swaying under a golden sun. The mountains have reshaped themselves. The cities have vanished beneath forests, rivers, and sand. And yet something remains, not life, not civilization, but echoes, faint, scattered remnants of who we were. Deep beneath the layers of soil and stone, time has buried our legacy. A thin layer of concrete, plastic, and steel lies fossilized in the crust of the earth. A geological scar scientists of the far future might one day call the human layer. In that layer lies everything we ever created: the bones of skyscrapers, fragments of satellites, particles of our civilization pressed into eternity. The new life forms that now rule the planet will never know what they are walking upon. But the earth remembers. Every gust of wind that moves through an ancient valley still whispers the faint vibration of our existence. Every shifting tide carries microscopic remains of what we once built. We are everywhere, yet nowhere aren't a species turned into a memory. The oceans still hide our artifacts in silence. Submerged cities rest at the bottom of the seas. Glass towers, now coral reefs. Cars turn to metal skeletons embraced by algae and fish. The Statue of Liberty, the Eiffel Tower, the pyramids, all long eroded, their outlines softened until they became indistinguishable from the rocks around them. But in rare corners of the world, a few traces endure. In the heart of the Amazon, a forgotten satellite dish rises like an ancient monument. In the deserts of Asia, a rusted spacecraft lies half-buried, its faded markings unreadable. And on the dark side of the moon, a tiny flag still stands, untouched by wind or time, a silent echo of a vanished dream. For millions of years, these relics will remain as the only proof that humankind ever existed. No eyes will see them, no minds will understand them. But the earth, the quiet witness, keeps them safe, and perhaps one day intelligence will rise again, not like us, not carbon copies of humanity, but new beings born of evolution's imagination. Creatures that think, wonder, and question the mysteries of their world. They might uncover strange artificial stones deep underground. They might find patterns that defy nature, circles, lines, metal, glass. And in those discoveries, a question will form: who came before us? They will look at the horizon and feel a strange connection to something ancient, something lost. A ghost of curiosity, the same force that once drove humans to explore, invent, and dream. That spark might awaken again, a distant echo of our own mind. In that moment, humanity will exist again, not in flesh or blood, but in thought, in the questions that the future will ask about the past. Because even if time erases our cities, our voices, and our names, the idea of us, the curiosity that defined us, will never truly die. We were the species that looked at the stars and asked, why? And someday, someone, something will ask it again. And in that question, we will live once more. The earth will turn, as it always has. The stars will drift. The ages will pass. But the echo of humanity, faint, fragile, eternal, will continue to resonate through time itself. Millions of years have rolled over the earth like gentle tides. Continents have shifted. New mountains have risen. Old oceans have disappeared. The last traces of humanity lie deep beneath layers of rock, compressed, hidden, forgotten, and yet life continues its endless rhythm. Species evolve, adapt, vanish, and rise again. The great forests that once covered the planet have given way to new ecosystems: vast wetlands, colossal fungi forests, coral plains stretching across dry land. The world has become something unrecognizable, and yet somehow familiar. Then, in one small corner of this reborn earth, evolution stirs again. A creature, small, fragile, and curious, begins to question, not with words, not with speech, but with awareness. It observes the stars, it wonders about the shadows, it begins to shape the world around it. This is the first flicker of thought in 1,000,000 years. Over countless generations, that flicker grows. Brains become larger. Hands or something like hands, learn to craft, to build, to experiment. Fire returns, not as destruction, but as discovery. Once again, light glows in the dark, not from electricity or machines, but from the spark of understanding. Nature, in its patience, has done what it always does. It has found a new way to remember what was lost. The new intelligent beings are not human. Their bodies are different, their senses beyond our imagination. Perhaps they are amphibious, walking between land and water. Perhaps they see in colors we never could. Perhaps they hear the hum of the earth itself. They are shaped perfectly for the new world they inhabit. And yet, in their eyes burns a familiar light, the same insatiable curiosity that once defined us. They begin to explore the mysteries of their planet. They study the patterns of the stars. They carve symbols into stone, create art, and build shelters. They wonder about life, death, and the meaning of their existence. And without knowing it, they start walking the same path humanity once walked, the path of discovery. One day, one of them uncovers something ancient, a strange metallic shape buried in stone, smooth, artificial, and alien to their world. They do not understand it, but they feel something, a strange pull, a whisper of recognition. The object, perhaps a fragment of a satellite, perhaps a shard of a city once called New York, carries within it the ghost of our past. Around this artifact they gather. They build stories, myths, beliefs. They speak of the ones who came before, beings who touched the stars and vanished. Humanity becomes legend, not as we were, but as an idea, a sacred memory of creation, knowledge, and loss. Centuries pass, and the new species rises higher. They build tools. They learn to measure time. They begin to shape their environment, slowly, carefully. They balance with nature, aware of its power, respectful of its fragility. They have inherited not our world, but our lesson, and though they will never know our name, they carry our essence, the urge to explore, to understand, to dream beyond the horizon. From the ashes of extinction, intelligence has returned. The universe has found a new way to think, to wonder, to question its own existence. And as they gaze at the same stars we once gazed upon, somewhere in the vast silence of the cosmos, the story of humanity begins again, not in flesh, but in spirit. We were not the end. We were a bridge, a brief but brilliant flame that lit the path for whatever comes next. And as the winds move through the forests of this new world, you can almost hear it, a faint whisper echoing through the ages. We were here. 100,000 years have passed since the rise of the new intelligent beings. Civilization once again has taken form, but this time shaped by wisdom, patience, and balance. There are no skyscrapers piercing the clouds, no endless smoke trails in the sky. Their cities breathe with the rhythm of nature, built from living stone, flowing water, and light that grows like vines. They have learned harmony where humanity once sought control, and yet one thing remains unchanged: curiosity. They still look to the stars and wonder, are we alone? Did someone come before us? In time, their curiosity turns into exploration. They study the earth itself, digging deep into its ancient layers. What they find begins to rewrite their understanding of existence. In the rock strata, they discover thin lines of strange materials, plastics, metals, chemicals, and fused glass. Things that should not be there. Things that speak of an age of creation, power, and destruction. For generations, they excavate, catalog, and study these artifacts. They find fragments of unknown objects, smooth-shaped, deliberate, a shattered lens, a circular coin with indecipherable markings, a tablet of glass etched with patterns too precise to be natural. And beneath it all, a mysterious structure buried deep below a forest, sealed in concrete and steel. When they open it, the air that escapes is millions of years old. Inside they find a message. It is not written for them, it was written for us. A time capsule, one of the countless we once buried across the planet, carrying the story of humankind. Within it lie remnants of language, sound, and image, frozen fragments of who we were. They study it for centuries. At first it is noise, meaningless symbols, but slowly, through patience and pattern, they begin to decode. They learn our alphabet, our numbers, our images, and for the first time in eons, the voice of a human is heard again, a recording, faint, trembling, ancient. To whoever finds this, we were called humans. We lived, we dreamed, we loved. We built wonders and we made mistakes. If you are hearing this, know that we were here, and that we too once looked to the stars and asked the same questions you do now. The beings are silent. For the first time, they feel connected to something greater than themselves, something ancient, cosmic, and deeply familiar. They realize that they are not the first to ask why. From that moment on, humanity becomes more than myth. It becomes truth. They build temples, not to worship us, but to remember the message. They call us the first dreamers, the species who learned to speak to time itself. Across their planet, monuments rise, not of conquest or glory, but of remembrance. Each monument bears a single symbol from our world, a circle, a handprint, a spiral, symbols that once adorned our caves and cities. The universal marks of creation. They begin to search the stars, following the traces we left behind. In orbit, they find fragments of metal drifting through the void. Satellites turn to dust, yet still holding human fingerprints. And when they touch these relics, they understand what we once were. Not gods, not masters, but dreamers who reached for eternity. Then, one day, they decide to answer. With their own machines, they send a signal into space, a soft, steady pulse, repeating in rhythm. A message written not in words, but in pattern. A heartbeat, the universal language of life. Their message is simple. We found you. And somewhere, light years away, that signal travels through the silent cosmos, passing the ruins of our probes, our space stations, our lost dream, carrying the voice of a new world to the endless sea of stars. The cycle continues. Knowledge passes not through blood, but through time. One species ends, another begins. But the story never dies, because even across the gulf of extinction, life always finds a way to remember itself. The message has been sent, and with it, the universe awakens once more to a familiar sound, the sound of curiosity. Centuries pass. The new beings, the heirs of Earth, have mastered light and energy. Their technology does not scar the planet. It grows with it, powered by the rhythm of the sun and the flow of the oceans. They build not to dominate, but to understand. Their ships, carved from crystal and light, rise silently into the sky, not as conquerors, but as children returning home to the stars. Their gaze turns upward, just as ours once did. They map constellations. They name galaxies. They build observatories on mountaintops and floating platforms above the clouds. Each telescope, each beam of light, each radio pulse is guided by the same question that echoed in human hearts long ago. Who are we, and where did we come from? In time, they begin their voyage into space. The first journey is cautious, a reach beyond the atmosphere, into the quiet sea of black and stars. They see their world below glowing softly, alive and whole. And in that moment, they understand what we once felt, the awe of seeing your own home, small and fragile, suspended in infinity. Soon, exploration becomes their nature. They travel to their moon, its surface scarred with ancient craters, silent and still. There, half buried beneath eons of dust, they find it. A fragment of something unnatural, metallic, shaped by hands that no longer exist. It is one of our satellites, a child of human ambition, sleeping in silence for millions of years. They bring it home with reverence. Their scientists study it with quiet wonder. They decode the inscriptions, the patterns, the technology, and slowly realize what they've found. It is proof, undeniable, irrefutable, that they are not the first to reach for the stars. Inside the satellite's decaying shell, they discover a small plaque, tarnished but still legible. A map of the solar system. 2 figures, human, etched in gold. A message that says, to any civilization that finds this, we offer you our friendship. We are the children of Earth. For the first time in their history, they weep. They are not alone. They never were. They realize that the very stars they now travel among once called to their ancestors. The same constellations that guided human explorers. The same cosmic sea that filled our dreams. From that moment, a new purpose takes hold. They begin searching for every trace of us among the stars, the remains of our satellites, probes, and ships drifting in silence. Voyager, Pioneer, Cassini, all still there, frozen in time, moving endlessly through the void. They gather these relics, preserve them, and study the stories engraved upon them. They listen to the recordings we left behind, the sounds of rain, laughter, music, and heartbeat. And through those sounds they hear us. They hear life. The words of humanity, though ancient, still carry emotion, our love, our fears, our hope. And as they listen, they begin to feel connected not just to us, but to everything that ever was. They call this discovery the inheritance of the stars. For them, humanity becomes the first chapter in the cosmic story. The ones who dared to dream, who built the bridge from planet to universe. Now, they walk that bridge. They establish colonies on nearby worlds, not as empires, but as caretakers. They plant forests on barren moons, seed oceans on lifeless rocks. Everywhere they go, they carry a symbol, the same golden circle from the human plaque. To them it means continuity, life's promise to itself, and as their ships drift farther into space, they find themselves reaching places humanity once imagined but never touched. The outer planets, the edge of the solar system, and finally, the interstellar void. There, beyond the reach of sunlight, they find Voyager 1, still drifting, still carrying the golden record. They retrieve it and listen. From across time, a human voice speaks again. This is a present from a small, distant world, a token of our sounds, our science, our music, our thoughts, and our feelings. We are attempting to survive our time so we may live into yours. The beings listen in silence. Their hearts, whatever shape they take, tremble, because they realize the message was never meant for them specifically. It was meant for whoever came next. It was meant for them, and in that moment they make a vow to carry the story forward, to ensure that the flame humanity lit in the darkness will never fade again. The universe, once silent, now sings with 2 voices, one ancient, one new, both born from the same planet, both bound by the same eternal question. Who are we, and why do we exist? The cosmos listens, and for the first time in eternity, it answers back, not in words, but in life. 1 billion years have passed. Stars have been born and died. Galaxies have collided and reformed. And yet, somewhere in the infinite sea of time, life continues its eternal rhythm. The descendants of that new civilization, the heirs of humanity, no longer belong to a single planet. They exist among the stars now, travelers between suns, gardeners of galaxies. Their forms have changed, their consciousness expanded beyond matter. They are no longer bound by biology, nor by the limits of a single world. They have become thought itself. a collective mind drifting through starlight woven into the fabric of the universe. They communicate through light, memory, and song, a symphony of existence echoing across the cosmos, and yet, in the endless silence between galaxies, one question still remains, a whisper that has haunted every intelligent being since the beginning. Where did it all begin? For eons they have searched, through wormholes and dying suns, through frozen comets and black holes, until at last they find it, a small, unremarkable system, a faded yellow star surrounded by 8 ancient planets. Most are lifeless now, silent, cold, forgotten. But on the third world, something calls to them, a planet scarred by time, yet shimmering with memory, oceans reduced to dust, mountains carved by ages of wind. But beneath the ruins, traces remain, fossilized circuits, crystallized bones, the faint magnetic imprint of cities long gone. It is Earth, our home. They descend not as explorers, but as pilgrims returning to the origin of consciousness. They walk upon the same soil that once knew human footsteps. They touch the stones that once felt our warmth. And in that moment, the circle closes. The first intelligence to ask why has been found again by its descendants, evolved beyond imagination. They understand now humanity was not the end. It was the beginning, the first spark that set eternity in motion. Through their vast knowledge, they reconstruct what once was. They rebuild images from the quantum echoes left in the atmosphere, sounds from the vibration of ancient rocks. And slowly, holographic ghosts come to life. The laughter of children, the roar of oceans, the heartbeat of a living planet. They see us again, not as gods, not as myths, but as their ancestors, the ones who first reached for the stars, the ones who dreamed of forever. And then, in a single moment of understanding, they realize the truth, that consciousness itself is the universe's way of knowing it exists, that every intelligent being, every spark of awareness is not separate, but one continuous thought, unfolding through time, from the first human gaze upon a night sky to their own eyes staring into the cosmic void. The same question has echoed, unchanged. Who are we? And the answer finally arrives, not as a voice, but as a realization that fills the cosmos like dawn. We are the universe dreaming of itself. The stars are our neurons. The galaxies, our memory. Every birth, every extinction, every rise and fall, all part of one great rhythm, one eternal consciousness. The beings smile, not with faces, but with light. They gather the essence of what remains of Earth, its dust, its atoms, its history, and scatter it into the stars, letting it seed new worlds. From those fragments, new life will rise again. Perhaps one day, somewhere in a faraway galaxy, a creature will look up at the night sky and wonder, are we alone? And in that question, the story will begin again, the eternal return. The infinite cycle of curiosity and creation, the everlasting echo of what it means to be alive, because even when our names are forgotten, our spirit, the human spirit, endures. In every atom, in every heartbeat, in every beam of light that crosses the cosmos, we were the first dreamers, and through time, space, and evolution, the dream continues forever. Time, the one thing we could never stop, never control, and never truly understand. It flows through the stars, through the oceans, through every living cell that has ever existed. And even when the last flame of our civilization faded, time carried something of us forward. Not our cities, not our machines, but our essence. Humanity was never meant to last forever in body, only in spirit. We were the first to look up at the sky and realize that the stars were not just lights, but destinations. We were the first to name the unknown, to ask questions without answers, to dream of things that had never existed. And though we disappeared, our dream did not. It moved through the world like an invisible current, shaping evolution, guiding life, whispering across the ages. Every creature that looked up at the stars inherited a piece of that dream. Every question asked by a future mind carried our memory forward, for in truth, we were never gone. We simply changed form. Our atoms became part of the soil, the water, the air, and through them, life continued. The forests that grew after us carried our breath. The rivers that flowed carried our reflection. The wind that moved across the planet carried our voice, the same whisper that said, "There is more." And across the endless eons that whisper became music again, not through instruments, but through existence itself, the hum of planets, the rhythm of galaxies, the pulse of the universe remembering itself. That is what we were. Not a mistake, not a tragedy, but a beginning, a spark that set the cosmic story in motion. Somewhere, in another corner of time, another being will rise. It will look to the stars, feel that same longing, that same pull to know what lies beyond. And when it does, it will feel us, not as gods, not as ghosts, but as kindred, ancient travelers who once asked the same question and dared to chase the answer, because the universe never forgets curiosity. It is the one flame that can never die. It passes from star to star, mind to mind, life to life, forever searching, forever learning, forever wondering. That is our true immortality. Not the monuments we built, not the empires we created, but the questions we left behind. What are we? Why are we here? Are we alone? Questions that echo eternally across galaxies and generations. And somewhere, out there in the dark, a new voice always answers, "We are the universe, and we are listening." And so from dust we rose. We built, we dreamed, we vanished, and yet we endured. For even when our world fell silent, our story continued. Across time and space, through life and death, through endings and beginnings, we became part of something greater. We became memory. We became energy. We became infinity. The earth that once carried us now sleeps, but the echo of our existence ripples through every atom of the cosmos. Our thoughts became stars. Our dreams became galaxies, and our curiosity became the heartbeat of the universe itself. This is not the end of humanity's story. It is simply the next chapter, written in light, written in time, written in the endless expanse of forever. We are the question that time keeps asking. We are the voice that space keeps echoing. We are the dream that never ends. And as long as something in this vast cosmos still looks up, still wonders, still dares to imagine, we will never truly be gone. Because we are not just from the universe. We are the universe, alive, awake, and dreaming. Still,